Hey buddy, Crow back again with another Evercade video. This time we're going to be looking at the dual game cartridge of Xenocrisis and Tanglewood. This is cartridge number 11 for the Evercade. The Evercade is this device right here. If you're not sure what this is, there's a link in the description below where I have my pickup and initial impressions of it. And since then, I've decided to collect just about every cartridge there is for it. In fact, I have collected every cartridge there is for it. There's no just about it. But more specifically, this video is going to be on the dual game cartridge of Xenocrisis and Tanglewood. This is the first cartridge where we're not getting a whole collection of games. The first 10 Evercade cartridges contained between 6 and 20 games, and this time we're only getting 2. So logically, these 2 games would have to be something very, very special, and that's what we're going to look at here in this video. I'm going to basically talk about each game for a few minutes and my thoughts on them. And usually what I'll do is I'll talk about the games and then I'll give them a rating between 1 and 5. If I give a game a 5, I felt it was a really great game, a game I had a lot of fun with, very few flaws with it. If I give it a 4, I'm going to say it's a good game, a game I still had a lot of fun with, but there were a couple things I felt could be changed to make the game better. A 3 I give to a game I feel is just okay, meaning that I'm on the fence about it. I don't really like it, or I don't really not like it. I'm just right in the middle about it. A 2 is what I'd give a poor game, a game I really didn't like, but maybe I can go back to it and play it certain occasions, something like that. And I give a game a score of 1. If I feel it's just plain bad, it should never have been included on the Evercade, and I'll never want to go back to it again. Very, very rare that I give a game a bad rating. And again, these are just my own personal thoughts, not what I think everybody would think about these games, just my own personal opinions, and based on how these games play on the Evercade, not on other devices. So things like the ability to save state very easily would give a game an advantage, whereas multiplayer, not so much, because you have no multiplayer really on the Evercade. So, with all that being said, let's jump right into our first game on this dual game cartridge. The first game on the cartridge is Tanglewood. This is a Sega Genesis game that was crowdfunded on Kickstarter in 2018. But it's also available on other platforms as well through emulation. Hey, much like the Evercade. I checked it out and this game is also available on Steam. When you buy it on Steam, you'll get a ROM file of the game you could play in any emulator you like, or load it up on an EverDrive and play it on original hardware if you'd like. Speaking of original hardware, you could also get the game through MegaCat Studios if you'd like a physical Genesis or Mega Drive cartridge of the game, which made me wonder if MegaCat Studios is publishing this game, why wasn't the game included on the MegaCat Studios cartridges I looked at a couple months ago? It might have something to do with the developer of the game, Big Evil Corp, and the cost associated with the game itself. It is $17.99 on Steam, so on this Evercade cart you're getting this plus another game for about $20, but is the game worth it? In Tanglewood, you play as a fox-like creature named Nim, who became lost in Tanglewood, and it's up to you to help Nim survive each night from the evil predators that roam the land. The best way I could describe this game is that it's a puzzle platformer that really gave off vibes of a game from the early 90s I played called Out of This World, otherwise known as Another World. There are many creatures that roam Tanglewood, and the best way to deal with them is to avoid them, or if a confrontation is necessary, then you must either outrun them or outsmart them. Pushing boulders on them or dropping them into spike pits will usually do the trick. Along the way, you'll run into these different fuzzy creatures called fuzzles. If you can roll a fuzzle back to its home, you can temporarily take on different abilities depending on its color. Sending the fuzzles home and using those abilities is absolutely necessary for finishing the game, as you'll need those abilities to proceed through the game. The yellow ones will grant you the ability to glide, the green ones give you the ability to slow down time, which is helpful for outrunning creatures, and the blue one will allow you to tame beasts and even ride them. Also, red fuzzles are used to power old contraptions that will not operate without power. This is a puzzle game through and through, and it kept me interested throughout the end. The levels are very well designed, and I never really felt stuck for too long. After playing the game for the first 30 minutes, I could usually figure out what the game wanted me to do after that. The game does have a small cutscene here and there, and about halfway through the game you'll encounter another creature much like yourself, and you have to work as a team to proceed through the game. The only time I really felt annoyed by the game was when I was exploring an area and I didn't realize that my friend creature had gotten too far away. If that happens, they just die for some reason. I don't really know why, the Grim Reaper just comes and kills them. But there are times in the game where you do have to travel far from them in order to complete a puzzle, but it's not really clear all of the time if it's okay to be separated or not. Story-wise, there are some pretty interesting twists in the game, including the end game playing out differently if you've managed to collect all the fireflies in each level. I played through the game in about 3 hours my first time through, but there is some replayability there for me to play through again to see if I could collect all the fireflies. But already knowing how to solve all the puzzles in the game kind of takes something away from that. Maybe every once in a while it might be fun to boot up this game and play through it really quick, I really don't know. But all in all, this is a pretty solid game, and I've got to give it a 5. The second game on the cartridge is Xenocrisis for the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, and it turns out that this is another game that was crowdfunded through Kickstarter. Hey, maybe this cart should have been called the crowdfunded collection one. Oh, but could 2 games actually make up a collection? Well, maybe not, but this game is available on a ton of other platforms, though I do believe they are all based on the Genesis / Mega Drive version of the game. So I hadn't played this game before, but from what I knew, I was looking forward to really getting into this one based on what I did know, and what I did know was that this was a room-to-room twin-stick shooter like Smash TV, and the game was hard. Really hard. And that was accurate. What I had forgotten though was that there were extra buttons thrown in to let you throw grenades and to perform a quick roll maneuver. What I absolutely did not know was that as you progress through the game, you could collect dog tags that some of the creatures drop, and after each level you can spend them to upgrade some of your character's stats. Firstly, you may be wondering, if this is a twin-stick shooter on the Genesis, how does that even work on the Evercade controller? Well, so far with every emulated Genesis game I've seen so far, the Evercade acts as a 3-button controller that lets you map those buttons to a limited degree. This is the first emulated Genesis title on the Evercade that seems to automatically map to a 6-button controller, but also automatically remaps those buttons so they make sense for this game. The D-pad moves your character, and the face buttons fire in each direction. Now, a dual analog controller may be ideal for this game, but I really had no issues playing this game with the Evercade controller. Shooting diagonally is just done by hitting 2 face buttons, and the 2 shoulder buttons are used for the dodge rolls and the grenades. The game controls perfectly fine, except for one hitch. Now, the game is difficult, yes, but there are few things that make this game really more difficult than I think it needed to be. The first is the dodge roll. I mean, it's very useful for getting out of the way of some enemy fire, but the problem is you can't be firing your gun when you use it. I simply don't understand why that is. If you're in a heated firefight and you want to dodge roll, you have to remember to stop firing or else it won't work. I mean, it seems a little bit bizarre to me. I don't know if other versions of the game play like that, but this version does. Another thing that makes this game more difficult than something like Smash TV is that you're limited in the amount of ammo you can carry. So it's not really a good idea to be constantly firing your weapon unless it's aimed at a creature. When you run out of ammo, you really can't do anything except get close for a melee attack. But usually when you're about to run out, an ammo crate does appear, but you still gotta get to it. I almost think that limiting your character's ammo was put in the game to give you something extra to upgrade between levels, you know, the upgraded ammo capacity. One minor nuisance I found in the game is that your current stats aren't always on screen. The game cycles between what it thinks is relevant just above your character's head, but I found there were times where I was just curious how many grenades I had in my inventory, but there was really no way for me to know. I know other versions of this game take advantage of widescreen displays to show that information on the side, and I kind of wish that this was done for the Evercade as well. One other downside here is that the game has a 2-player simultaneous mode, but there's currently not a way to do that on the Evercade. All that being said, there was still a lot of fun to be had with this game. The graphics are top-notch, the music and sound effects were utterly fantastic, and there are many examples of very clear speech here in the game as well. I also really like the upgrade system that was implemented. One very clear advantage the Evercade version of this game has is the use of save states. I found myself using save states in between every room just to see if I could clear each one without getting hit. I tried doing the same with the large, impressive looking bosses in the game as well, but that wasn't happening. I think it's crazy to think that there are 7 levels in the game, but I couldn't get past the 3rd. It's a difficult game for sure, but it's also a very solid game as well, despite my minor complaints. This game easily gets a 5 from me. It really is a great game. And there you have it. Those are the 2 games on this dual game cartridge, Xenocrisis and Tanglewood. Despite the fact that these games are 2 totally different genres, one is a puzzle platformer and one is a very twitchy twin stick shooter that's very difficult, there's actually quite a bit in common. Both of these are based on Genesis games that could be played in the Genesis if you have a ROM file or get a cartridge format of these games. And they're both games that were funded on Kickstarter, which is why I believe that these 2 games were kind of bundled together. So your price point, this game cartridge is like $20, so these games are price per game. You'll wind up paying $10 per each game, and I think that has something to do with these games being kickstarted and the price being asked for these 2 games. But is it worth it? Yeah, because really, I mean, as long as you're into either one of those 2 type of games or both, preferably both, because you could buy these 2 games individually elsewhere for less than $20. But buying both of these games together for $20, that's where a bit of savings come in. And also you have the option to play it portably or hooked up to your TV. You have that option with that, and plus the save states. You may not actually have save states if you play it on actual hardware. But yeah, I gave both these games a 5. How could I not? They're very solid games. Had a lot of fun playing Tanglewood, had to play through the whole game. And Xenocrisis, despite being so difficult that I can't pass level 3, it's a fun game. I could definitely see myself going back to it again and again and again and again. Maybe even buying it on other platforms just to actually have that fully twin stick experience. I'm not averaging these scores together. You're getting a 5, you're getting a 5 here. So yeah, I've said pretty much all I can say about Xenocrisis and Tanglewood. Excellent game cartridge. So next time I'm going to be playing the Oliver Twins collection and making a video for that. And it definitely has more than 2 games. I don't really remember how many games are on it, but it's definitely more than 2. So that'll be the next Evercade video. Until then, I'll see you next time. Bye.